very warm welcome. Connect machines and devices to no-code apps with MQTT in Tulip. And I think it's really important to begin with the best news possible, right? I think it's almost happy hour. Like one presentation and it's almost happy hour, so stay with us for half an hour. I promise we will make it worth for you. It's gonna be good. Just stay with us. Thank you so much. So what we are going to talk about today, I'm going to give you a very short introduction to ourselves, to the speakers, and to where we come from, to Tulip. Then we're going to take a quick look at MQTT in industrial operations. Afterwards, we're going to get down to the real-life examples, right? MQTT and Tulip functionalities and use cases. And then my esteemed colleague are going to actually give you a live demo. Alrighty, then to the introduction, who we are. I'm here today with my colleagues, Mr. Hugo Richard and Mr. Tarun Mamachan, both solutions engineers from Tulip, and I myself, I'm Daniel Topan, also from Tulip. I'm engineering program manager there. But who we are, right? What is Tulip? Where we come from, actually? Tulip is a no-code frontline operations platform that was founded in 2014 out of the MIT Media Lab. Our co-founders are Ronnie Kubat and Nathan Linder. Our HQ is in Boston, but we have offices here in Munich and also in Budapest. And we have 300 employees, actually 300 plus, and we are growing constantly. Which industries are we serving, very importantly? Pharma and med device, consumer goods, aerospace and defense, automotive, heavy industry, high tech, you name it, probably we are there. And we are working with some selected partners, such as, for example, HiveMQ, right? But also like AWS, Microsoft, Boston Consulting Group, McKinsey, all over the spectrum, so to speak. Very importantly, if we take a look at that landscape, what called Tulip to life, right? What is the background to it? What we see is that an incredible amount of money is being spent yearly on trying to solve a problem with automation that is not going to be solved with that because it's fundamentally human-centric, right? Because 70–80% of mistakes are made by humans, not because of ill will, obviously, but still. An incredible amount of money, right, economic output is at risk because finding skilled, highly skilled workforce is an ever-increasing difficulty. This also puts jobs at risk for the future. Like a lot of jobs are going to remain unfilled, not to mention that the most important skills also in this space are becoming the digital skills. And this is what we need. Now, this space traditionally has been underserved by technology. Maybe I wouldn't go that far to say that it's ignored by technology, but definitely underserved, right? There are legacy systems, definitely. But these are traditionally not that flexible, a little bit monolithic, I could say. And what we need instead is composability and extensibility. We need short time to value. We need to empower people to be able to adjust quickly and basically have very short and quick continuous improvement cycles. Those people who are close to the problem and hence are close to the solution as well. And because the problem itself is human-centric, right? The solution needs to be human-centric too. So what we need is empower people, train them better, make them better, enable them to do what they do better, faster, and more efficient, right? And this is exactly what Tulip has realized and actually has done. Because Tulip is a no-code platform, right? We can empower people close to the problem to create their own solutions, their own applications, tailored to that issue that they know the best without having to write a line of code. It's also connected. We have out-of-the-box connectivity solutions with IoT devices, pre-built connectors as well. And it's an application platform, cloud native, right? Keyword scalability that can scale to any size. It's standing basically on 4 pillars. Like that is the application editor, web-based, right? Where you can actually build, create your applications, test them with trigger logic, just the usual application logic that belongs to it. We have the edge devices and the connectors, right? To make sure that we can stay connected, obviously, and connect other systems to Tulip as well. The real-time analytics and dashboarding is a very important part of Tulip because you can use it to visualize, monitor, analyze your data in real life and real time. And last but not least, very importantly, the ecosystem effect, right? Tulip is an ecosystem at heart because we have a library with pre-built apps and pre-built connectors, we have a community, we have a knowledge base with articles, countless articles, and we have a university. This is how Tulip becomes an ecosystem of multiple systems working together very efficiently, which results in empowering people to build applications or application systems across the entire organization, tailored to that problem, what they have, right? You name it, for production visibility, for machine monitoring, for logistics, for audits, guided assemblies, work instructions, whatever the customer or whatever the people in the front line need, right? Let's take a very quick look at MQTT in industrial operations. Now, the challenge at hand, customers typically have several systems that they are using, right? They adopted a lot of systems, all of which are good at solving one thing, one problem, point solutions, right? Typically not necessarily very flexible, but very good at solving one thing. Now, replacing these are very expensive, it's time consuming. We don't want to replace them once they are there, they're gonna stay there most likely. Now, the thing is that if they are working as silos, that's not efficient. So what I need at the end of the day is all of these systems to work together. And again, this brings us back to the whole ecosystem effect, because this is what I need, an ecosystem of systems, right? How can I do that? I can start to create one-to-one connections between all of these, but this will rapidly not scale because the number of integrations as the number of my systems is growing, it's very quickly going to get out of hand. So that's not gonna scale. The solution is the unified namespace, right? Using HiveMQ, MQTT. Instead of one-to-one connections, drop it. We can use a data hub and use the publish-subscribe model, drastically simplifying what we have at hand. And MQTT, right, we like it a lot in industrial operations space because it's lightweight, low bandwidth, really good for typically those environments with IoT devices, shop floor, which are typically not necessarily known as the places with the highest bandwidth internet connection, right? It's very flexible, doesn't pose constraints on the user in terms of the payload. It's async, so it's great. I can subscribe to something, and if I'm not online or my system is offline, right, the message doesn't get lost, which is great. And perhaps most importantly, it's really, really scalable. I can hook up my new systems and then just start publishing and subscribing, send the data and receive the data. And this is why I think it's a really, really great system and particularly well suited for this kind of frontline industrial operations. And how we do that in real life, my esteemed colleagues are going to show you that.
All right. So we now understand a bit the architecture and the vision, and let's double click on how do we actually do that and what kind of use cases it unlocks and what value we can create. So hot off the press, MQTT is now available as a data source in Tulip. Before that, you could connect your machines through OPC UA, or you could connect your devices through like serial drivers or network drivers, but now you can connect Tulip to your single data hub, if you have one. And so how do we do that? So in Tulip, there's this concept of a machine. So the machine is like this sort of digital twin of your business asset. It can be your equipment, your device. And each machine has some attributes that are then connected, mapped one-to-one to a signal. And here we have to understand that this signal can then be an MQTT topic, right? You can subscribe to one of these topics. It can also be an OPC UA signal or any open API that you have available. And what we can do is so this business asset, this machine that we define, you can then mix and match all these different data sources to create that machine and to model this machine. So that's the point on the left. You can and then also you can also start building your unified namespace by building also this contextual layer. You can add some business logic to this asset and map your topic to it. So then these existing business assets. So we understand how to create this machine and how to get all that data, but now what are we doing with this data, right? What kind of use cases can we unlock? So in Tulip, the core notion is being able to take this machine and then put it in what we call a frontline operation app. So basically put it in the hand of the operator. So the operator is the person who will interact with the equipment, right? He's the one who will perform maintenance. He's the one who is going to repair the machine, clean the machine. So you can put all this data in his hands, right? Whether it's an iPad, a laptop, whatever. And you can make him take decisions based on the data, but also augment this data through like human inputs. So for example, I have my iPad, I see that the machine has a downtime status, new downtime event, and I can then like, as an operator, augment this data point with an error report. I will add a comment, or I will also take a picture of, hey, here's what happened, and you can then like build all this context and this metadata around that data point. Another kind of use case that you can unlock, but is more typical, is this performance dashboard where then the user would typically be production supervisor or a plant manager, but to drive also visibility on your operations. Here's a case study where at the start, this customer was having his machine data siloed, and then all the production data was captured on paper. When I mean production data, I'm speaking of, for example, where are my work orders? So on my factory, like where are my products, where are my work orders? How many manual defects I'm creating? So all of these very valuable information was captured on paper, and obviously it was very hard to link that to the actual machine data, right? The performance of your assets, of your machines, or the uptime or the downtime of your machines. So the solution is what we develop here is actually, so if you imagine you have like 10 workstations on your shop floor, and you give one app to each of these workstations, and now when the machine is down, for example, the operator can interact with that, but also you now also have visibility on where are my work orders in my shop floor, how many defects I'm creating, and then you have also the capability to relate that. Potentially you relate the number of manual defects to the uptime of your machines, and you're able to capture both of these production data and machine data and draw some correlations.
Thank you, Hugo. Yeah, a very quick second input from me. As an example for connectivity solutions, in this specific use case, really about machines, right? One of the perhaps most important in frontline operations, how to connect machines and basically connect an HMI. This is a real-life example that was presented actually this year in Hanover at the EMO show by one of our partners, DMG Mori. They have built an incredible real-life production line there, beginning with additive manufacturing, and it consisted of multiple stations from the very beginning up until final assembly, and they used Tulip as the backbone to digitize this entire production line and hook up all kind of different machines, again, like additive manufacturing, laser marking, 3D scanning, all these different machines hooked up to Tulip as an HMI for the entire production line, also utilizing MQTT, and not just machine monitoring, as you can see on the example right here, monitoring the machine status, the machine uptime, but also the entire work order tracking and work order management across the entire line, right from beginning to end, which work order is at which machine, associated again with which order behind, fetching data if needed from an ERP system, and then reporting it back if it's ready, all the way down to final assembly.
Right now we have a quick demo. Any questions maybe in the meantime? Yes, please.
The example you just showed with the DMG Mori machines and the connection to Tulip, were you able to import machine models for those devices, or did you need to create those manually? I'm able to talking about that.
So by machine model, you mean modeling the machine, the different attributes?
Well, the modeling the machine data, so the variables that are available from the machine, are you able to import those, or is there some kind of template that you can import those, or do you have
So if I understand you correctly, sir, then your question is in regards of the machine data, right? Yeah, exactly. So based on with which protocol the machine is communicating with Tulip, right? We are able to map the data coming from the machine to Tulip. And this is not something that you have to do from scratch, because basically there is a whole line of data that is available, and you can use it and just hook it up to Tulip and do the mapping basically of what's coming from the machine and map it to the necessary data points within Tulip. So yes, we are definitely able to do that. This is how the entire machine monitoring concept is working. Was I able to answer your question or not entirely?
I was wondering if it auto-discovered, so if Tulip was able to identify a schema and basically build that model itself.
Oh, I see. Okay. Like completely automatically, you mean that I just hook up the machine and then it does everything by itself? No, not to that level, no, because essentially, depending on what machine you are hooking up, right, and this is, I think, the devil is in the details, right, like, as mentioned, flexibility. Perhaps if we take just a very simple example, like you and I, perhaps you are interested in different data than I am, and if I'm hooking it up automatically, then I'm giving a solution which is probably going to cover some of your use cases and interests and some of mine, but not entirely that what you are interested in, nor what I'm interested in. So we are basically the keywords flexibility. So you can hook up, select your data source, and then map out the data that you are specifically interested in.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Hugo. Hello, everyone.
One question before you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so with ERP, we typically use the REST API to connect with the SAP system or some middleware between the ERP, for example. Yep.
So, do you have any integration connectors? Like QuickBooks has their own OGB connectors. So, do you have such, or we all almost use like REST APIs for integrating with other systems?
Yeah, so you can build your own REST API connectors, but you can also pick some from our library. So we're building a library, we're continuously building a library of connectors to connect really fast to your favorite systems, let's say. Yeah, so both options are possible.
And what about the widgets, like for coming up in the UI side? So, are the widgets very configurable, and can we use different kinds of widgets which are available in market? Because we face an issue in QuickBooks, like we're not able to use much of a diverse widget, and it's not maybe restricted towards one particular UI.
Yeah.
What about Tulip?
So right now you have a given set of widgets, and Tarun will show some of it right now. You can also build your own widget with what we call a custom widget, where you can use CSS, JavaScript, and so on to build your own widget. And soon we'll also be launching our marketplace where people can build their widget, publish it, sell it if they want. It's still to be defined. But yeah, where we really want to build this ecosystem where people will be creating their content and publishing it, and then you can use this content as you wish. Yeah.
All right, thanks. So this is the fun part of the session. You know, I mean, it was also fun, but you are going to see something in real, yeah, not just the slide deck. So before the demo, I was like, okay, maybe I can show a demo video, but there's no fun in that. I mean, like I can just play a video for a few minutes, that's it. But I'm going to do live. So we are going to build an app, connect it to a machine. We are going to subscribe some data. We are going to pull it and see insights, right? Because in the end of the day, that is what we want to achieve, pulling all the machine data. Like, if I pull a bunch of data from a machine and just display it, it's not telling me anything. In the end, I want to learn the data in a context, and I want to drive my business based on the insights that I get from the data. That's the overall goal that we have with all this connectivity and so on, right? So as they mentioned, Tulip is a low-code platform, which means if you want to build an app, you don't need a coding background or a software background, right? So it's very intuitive, it's very interactive, and it's very UI-based, right? So it's very visual. The platform is very visual. So when we talk about the MQTT interface and integration with machines, there are two parts to it. There is a MQTT broker, right? You know that better than me. And there is this client, which is consuming the data from the broker. So here for this demo, I'm using, shout out to HiveMQ, by the way. I'm using their public broker, and I'm subscribing. So I'm publishing some data to this broker via a Node-RED instance. So I've created, I'm running Node-RED locally in my machine, hosted in Docker, and I have a very simple flow where I'm just putting some data to the broker. And then I'm going to use the Tulip app as a consumer who will subscribe the data from this broker, right? So that is the background of this demo. So coming to Tulip side, these are some things that you need to set up in order to communicate to your machine. So the first thing is a data source. You can have different types of data source. So if you have a unified OPC server where multiple machines are connected to, for example, that can be one of your data source. Or here, the MQTT data source, right? And as you can see, there are only two things you need to configure. The host name, which is the HiveMQ public broker host name, and the port name, right? That's all it takes to set up a data source. And I am running it, I'm connecting my Tulip instance to HiveMQ broker via a connector host. So connector host is like, imagine it's like a middleware that connects my Tulip apps to the external systems. And we have different types of offering. We have a cloud connector host, so your middleware itself can sit on cloud, or you can have on-premise connector host if you have some system that does not talk to internet, for example. Or we have also the option where we can have this connector on edge. So Tulip also offers this edge device. So if you have some devices in your shop floor that does not talk to anything, you can just hook it up with the edge device, and we can have all the business logic coming from there as well. So for this example, for this demo, I'm using the connector host, which is sitting on cloud, right? So I just configure my host and the port, and that's all it takes, right, to set up this data source. And the next thing I need to set up is the machine type. And, well, I have to do everything with one hand, so that's going to be tricky. Oh, no, it's okay. I mean, it's fine. So I'm going to create a new machine type called MQTT machine, right? And here, you can define different types of attributes to your machine. So on the left, you see machine state. So if you have different states to your machine, like it is running, it is stopped, it is idle, depending on what type of states you want to record. And then you have this downtime reasons. So when the machine goes down, if you want to record why it went down. So maybe there was a maintenance time, or there was some errors, or there was a changeover, whatever. So you can define all these custom states as well. So this is the standard states and standard downtime reasons that comes as a template, right? And then you have this machine attribute. So these are basically your tags or your topics that you want to pull into your Tulip machine. So here I have an example. So if I show you what I'm publishing to the broker, I have two states or two tags that two topics that I'm publishing to the MQTT broker. One is a temperature, where I'm just throwing some random values between 30 to 60, right? And then there's a state. So these are the only two tags that I'm throwing there. So I will define those tags here. And I think it brings to your question how we can get those OPC topics. So there's no automatic way. So you need to define each and individual attribute that you want to track, right? So here I'm going to assign a tag called temperature and a tag called state, right? And then you can have some machine triggers. So it is now only pulling the data from your MQTT broker. And now you want to define a business logic, meaning when the state value is 0, it means it is downtime. When the state value is 1, it is running. When the state value is 2, it is idle, for example, right? So you can define those triggers in a very low-code fashion, right? So you can add a condition that when the machine outputs state change, or you can also make a specific attribute. So if you want to trigger this business logic only for a specific attribute change, you can do that. And I have a condition here that when the state value is 0, for any output, then I am creating a machine state called stop. I think I didn't put 0 there. Yep. Right? So this is a business logic. And as you can see, it is very intuitive. It's very textual, very interactive, so you don't really need a scripting knowledge or some programming knowledge to do this. And I'm going to create one more state here. When the state value is 1, I define that my machine is running. Right? Very, very simple stuff. Yep. So that's like a very simple business logic I defined on the data that I'm pulling from the machine, right? So that's your machine type, and then you create the actual machine for this machine type. So here in this machine section, I see that there is okay, let's see what was the machine type. It's a MQTT machine. And you see that there is a machine section for MQTT machine, and I'm going to create an actual machine. And I call it my temperature sensor, right, for example. And I create it, and now you see that in the machine that I created, temperature sensor, there are 2 attributes that I defined, and now I will map these attributes to the MQTT topics, right? So we didn't do that yet. So I'll just go there, I select my data source, which is the public HiveMQ broker, and I'm going to subscribe to this topic that I publish via Node-RED. So let me check the topic name. Yeah, so this is the topic I want to subscribe here. So you see that it pulled the topic in Tulip, and now for temperature, I want to map the machine attribute temperature to temp, and I want to map the state to the topic state. And now my machine is connected to, my app is connected to your machine, right? So this is just one part of the story. We have set up the machine. Now Tulip machine can have a real-time data from your actual machine through via MQTT broker. And now what we can do with this data, I mean, that's the very important aspect of this whole story. So here I'm going to create an app. I mean, to save some time, I created a template. So this is how the app editor looks in Tulip. So there are 2 components on a high level. There are 2 components in Tulip platform. So one is the app editor. It looks very much like PowerPoint presentation, right? So you have the screen here. You have some steps like your slides. You have a base layout like your PowerPoint, template, for example. So if you define something on the base layout, it's visible in all the steps. And now I'm going to create, let's say, a machine terminal, right? So as a production supervisor, I'm walking on the shop floor, and I want to see what is the state of the machine, for example, right? I want to see what is the value of a specific attribute, how it is changing over time. Or maybe I have a temperature sensor. I want to alert someone when the temperature is too hot, like maybe above 58. I want to trigger an email to someone. Or I want to see the downtime reasons from last whole week. Or I want to do a Pareto analysis of the downtime reasons. So you can build all those use cases in a very simple way with the Tulip platform, right? And here I'm going to show you a few of those examples. So these are some widgets, like the standard widgets that we have. And I'm going to pull here, for example, a machine timeline. So it will basically show you the time series of your machine state. So when it was running, when it was stopped, when it was idle, and so on. And here I choose data source, and I choose my machine, the temp sensor. And you see that it is already showing the timeline of the machine and the state in the past time. So that is one of the widgets, for example. And then you can have the machine status. And all you need to do is connect these widgets to your specific machines, right? And here I'm going to connect this to my temp machine. And you see that it is stopped for last 2.5 minutes. And then you can have also the machine attribute. So let's say you want to see the temperature of the attribute temperature from your machine. And you can see that value here when I run it, of course. Right. So you're seeing the temperature value live, right, on your app. Now, one very important aspect of Tulip platform is like when you pull data from the machine, it's just raw data. It does not tell me anything. So one very important aspect of Tulip app is like you can contextualize the data, right? You can put more information and make your data more sensible and something that will help the operator and your business and your operation to make decisions, right? So here I'm pulling temperature, but I don't know whether it is Celsius or Fahrenheit, So I can here add, for example, the unit of measure called Celsius, and it will display the data in that format. So these are like some examples of the widgets that you can just drag and drop, connect it to your machine, and it is ready. You can just publish this app in the station, and the supervisor is going to see your machine data in a very contextualized way, right? So that is one use case of using Tulip connected to your machine. The other one is, for example, I just want to build a use case where every time there's a downtime. So if you remember, I created a business logic that when the state value changed to 0, I want to set my machine as downtime, right? So whenever there's a downtime, I also want to put a downtime reason. So the machine just tells me that it is downtime, but it does not tell me what's the reason, right? So whenever there's a downtime, I want the operator to choose what's the reason for the downtime. So that's something you can build very easily in Tulip. So I have this trigger logic, which listens to the machine change. So here I have my machine temp sensor, and whenever there's a state change, and I'm putting a condition as very, very visual, right? So whenever the state change is 0, I'm going to this new step called record downtime, where the operator can choose what was the reason for the downtime, right? So there are like 2 downtime here, for example. I can add one more. It's really like the PowerPoint. You can copy paste from one page to another, so you don't have to configure all the widgets from scratch. And here you have the trigger for this widget that when I click this, I want to change. So let's say this is changeover. So since I don't want to type a lot, just do with abbreviations. So when this is clicked, I want to change the downtime reason to changeover, right? So you have a raw data coming from machine. You're adding the human data to contextualize it, and then you can have analytics out of it. So here I'm seeing, so again, it's a analytics part of the Tulip platform where you can build analytics on the data that you're pulling or the data that you're generating within the app. And here I want to show the Pareto of all the downtime reasons I had, right? So I'm pulling the data from the machine, I'm adding another data on top of it, and based on these 2 data, I can have my insights, right? I can have analytics and see that, okay, what's the most reason my machine was down in the last month, for example, right? Or how is there a pattern on, there are some days when it is the downtime is way more than the other days. So you can really bring or get those type of insights by just, it took us maybe like 4 minutes or 5 minutes to do something like this, and it is really ready. So if I publish this data, I can go to the player, the Tulip player, which is where you run these apps, and you can start using these apps. So it's that simple, right? So for testing, let's, I just want to check if I'm using the right machine. No. Right, so I'm going to, so maintenance. So I'm just going to select maintenance. So whenever there is this button is clicked, I want to set the downtime reason as maintenance, right? And now if I test this, it's a test mode. It is not the actual production scenario. So whenever I'm testing this, you can see that there is, and now there's email sent, right? Because I had defined a condition here that whenever the value is greater than 55, send an email to me. Yeah. So an email was sent, and okay, it will now just send a lot of emails. And the machine is stopped. And let me now change the status of my machine, right? So let's see some state changes. So the state is 0, and now I'm changing it to 1. I deploy this, and I hope to see that here. My machine is now up, it is running, and it has started recording the events. And now when I change it back to 0, so that's the business logic that we have, that it sets the machine as downtime, and when it is downtime, it will ask the operator to select the reason for the downtime, right? So let's see if that works. Okay, let's look at the trigger. Yeah, there was something wrong in the trigger, I guess. But you see the point, right? You can define those additional triggers and additional business logic on your data. You can get more context. You can contextualize data in a sense that it can be used for analytics, and you can get insights about your machines and about your operations. So that's basically how simple this platform is. So in the end, you have protocols like MQTT, which is very powerful, which is very simple, right? But then if the other system, the consumer of this protocol, is not simple enough to get insights, then you are not getting this overall value from this protocol. So I just wanted to highlight that MQTT plus platform like Tulip, which is no code, very easy to build, and you can change it as your requirement changes in the shop floor. You just have to go and pull the right data, create a new analysis, and just publish it and start using it. So that's all. Thanks. Any questions? Yeah?
Maybe they have questions on the...
Oh, okay.
Thanks for the presentation. One question about the analytics that you talked about, that you enable with that. So where is the data stored that you produce with applications like that?
Yeah, so for the machines, we have a machine table, right? So every state change or every attributes that we receive from the source, we are storing it in the machine activity table. And the analytics is based on that machine activity table, right? I can actually show you that.
The database schema is maintained by the Tulip platform.
Yes.
And am I able to push in another database, or what would that look like?
Yeah, so we have some connectors where you can push data. For example, if you have another database, SQL database, right? So we have a SQL connector where you can pull data from your Tulip table or your machine table or any other data source, and you can push it to any other databases that you might have.
Thank you. One more question, if I may.
Yep.
So you showed us how you can pull data in, or via MQTT. Can you also control a machine or a workstation? For example, I know you have some light solutions. Would I be able to control the lighting via MQTT? Or would I need the edge device that you offer?
You want to take that?
Yeah, I would say you would definitely be able to, as Tarun showed, take decisions. I mean, with some business logic on top of these MQTT topics, you can then like take decisions and push that to the light kit if you're referring to the light kit. I believe in that case you would still need an edge device.
Your edge device or something that I built?
No, one of Tulip's edge device. Yeah, I mean, this light kit works in combination with Tulip edge devices. Yeah. off the shelf.
Thank you.
One just other point, you can also host Node-RED in the edge device to have more complicated business logics and flows there, right? So in case you have machines that is not connected anywhere, you can have those business logics sitting in your edge device, which is connected to the machine. Yep.
Another question? Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the presentation, guys. For us, as where you guys would fit in is a potential partner, because we don't do this part, we just do the data collection part. So our question is there a way to programmatically, and you have the UI, right? But can you do all of this through an API or a programmatic fashion? So specifically, first the creation of the data model, because we have our data model and we would need to map it automatically. We don't want to be like clicking, because each engine has like 500 different signals. We don't want to be clicking. So can you do that part through an API?
Yeah, so you can create, so the whole CRUD, right, CRUD of machines, you can do that through API. So yeah, you can create your machines through API. I don't know if you can actually do the topic linking, right, like linking an attribute to the, I would need to double check that. But if not now, it's definitely part of the vision, right? Opening as much as possible through API so that people who really want to scale and plug in like 500 machines can do that with a script and don't have to click it through.
And then can you also, are the applications themselves serializable, and can you produce them from either an API or some kind of programmatic fashion?
Through AI.
With AI, yes, that's the goal, right?
Well, I mean, not today, but yeah, I mean, there's something on the roadmap on creating applications, but no, I mean, in general, the Tulip is human-centric, so it's really to give a tool in the hands that people who have issues, right? The production supervisors, the operators, they have issue and they should be able to build something to solve their issue. So we try to stay a bit away as well to automating all of this too much, because in the end, the value lies in this whole process of you give a tool to someone who creates a solution, and that's really, I mean, what we see is that's the fastest way to create value, right? So we try to stay away to like automating too much of this process, because that's where the whole value lies, actually.
Can I add
Thank you.
something to that, perhaps?
Of course.
Because I think that was an interesting question, but again, the premier UI to create apps within Tulip is the app editor itself. However, when it comes to creating an app and then maintaining a curated set of applications and deploying them at scale, right, which could also be perhaps part of your question, there are definitely solutions already in the product today, like how to deploy them at scale if you are someone who is creating an app and you don't want to use it just on one station, but scale up and to like 100 different stations or across multiple workspaces or instances. It's definitely already in the product in terms of the governance, how to deploy them at scale, most definitely, yes.
Thank you, and that is part of what would be possible, because we have
Yep.
we have very similar installations across all of our assets. So we would want to scale that out and manage that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. I just want to understand how you diagnose if there is any issue on any part of the system, because there are many moving parts. One is Node-RED, the other one is in Tulip application. So is there any mechanism that we can diagnose the issues in a central way?
If there are data connection problems or data type changes, can you identify those changes?
Yeah, so I mean, you can definitely do that locally, right, for the console. We have a console on the player where you can look at, okay, what error happened, and you can debug that. Then some of our customers use third-party system to do that. And yeah, that's about it. And we also have a live support, yeah.